Have you ever thought that sometimes the simplest trick can save you from the biggest problem? Well, let me take you into a story that proves exactly that, but also teaches why depending only on old tricks can be dangerous. Long ago, in a quiet little village surrounded by fields and forests, lived a cap seller. He wasn't a rich man, nor was he powerful, but what made him stand out was his cheerful nature and the colorful caps he carried everywhere. Red, green, blue, yellow, his bundle looked like a rainbow on his head. Every morning, with energy in his voice, he would shout, "Caps, caps for sale! Bright caps, cheap caps, caps of every color." Children would run to him, villagers would smile when they saw him, and travelers passing by would stop to admire his goods. Selling caps was not just his job, it was his pride. One hot afternoon, after walking for hours under the blazing sun, the cap seller grew tired. His feet ached, his throat was dry, and his eyes begged for rest. He spotted a giant banyan tree at the edge of the forest. Its thick shade and cool breeze felt like an invitation. He gently placed his heavy bundle of caps on the ground, sat under the tree, and within minutes drifted into a deep sleep. Now here is where the story takes a surprising turn. That banyan tree was home to dozens of mischievous monkeys. From the top branches, they watched the sleeping man and the colorful caps lying beside him. Curiosity lit their eyes. Quietly, they climbed down, opened the bundle, and began wearing the caps one by one. Imagine the scene. Dozens of monkeys, all dressed like little salesmen, jumping around with caps on their heads. When the cap seller woke up and rubbed his eyes, what he saw almost made him faint. His entire bundle of caps was gone. All the monkeys were up in the trees, wearing his caps and chattering loudly. His heart sank. Without his caps, how would he earn? How would he eat? But just then, he remembered a clever old trick his grandfather had once told him. Monkeys always copy humans. A spark of hope lit up in his eyes. He quickly removed the cap from his head and threw it on the ground. And just as expected, the monkeys imitated him. One by one, they tossed their caps to the ground. Smiling with relief, the cap seller gathered every single cap, packed his bundle, and walked away with pride. That day, he felt like the smartest man alive. Years rolled by, and the cap seller grew older. His hair turned gray, his steps became slower, but his spirit was still the same. He continued walking from village to village, his bundle of caps balanced neatly on his head, calling out with the same energy, "Caps, caps for sale! Bright caps, cheap caps, caps of every color." People respected him. They knew he was honest, hardworking, and determined to live with dignity. And deep inside, the cap seller also carried a secret confidence, a memory of the clever trick that once saved his business. He believed that no matter what happened, he always had a solution. One scorching summer afternoon, just like years ago, the cap seller once again found himself tired and exhausted. His throat was dry, sweat rolled down his forehead, and his legs begged for rest. He looked around and, to his surprise, found himself standing near the same giant banyan tree where the unforgettable incident had once taken place. A wave of nostalgia hit him. He smiled to himself and thought, this tree. This is where I outsmarted the monkeys years ago. Let me rest here again." He gently placed his bundle of caps under the shade and leaned against the trunk. Slowly, sleep overtook him. And just as history often repeats itself, the mischievous monkeys reappeared. The moment they saw the bundle of colorful caps, their eyes sparkled with excitement. Within minutes, the tree was alive with laughter and chatter. The monkeys wore the caps, danced around, and made funny faces at each other. Once again, the man's entire bundle was gone. When the cap seller woke up, he looked up, and there they were. Dozens of monkeys on the branches, each one proudly wearing his caps. Instead of panic, he burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha! These silly monkeys! They haven't changed a bit. They don't know who they are dealing with. I beat them once, and I'll beat them again." With great confidence, he removed the cap from his own head and threw it to the ground, waiting for the monkeys to imitate him. But what happened next left him shocked. The monkeys did nothing. They looked at him, scratched their heads, and then laughed among themselves. One clever monkey even climbed down, picked up the cap he had thrown, and placed it back on his head, almost mocking him. The cap seller's smile faded. He repeated the trick again and again, jumping, waving, throwing his cap. But the monkeys did not copy him. They had learned. They were no longer the foolish creatures he once outsmarted. That day, the cap seller realized his old trick had failed. The monkeys had grown wiser, but sadly, the cap seller, sat under the banyan tree in shock. For years, he had carried pride in that one clever trick. He believed he was smarter than the monkeys, smarter than any problem life could throw at him. But now, the monkeys had changed. They had observed, they had learned, and they had grown wiser. His old solution no longer worked. As he sat there helpless, he whispered to himself, "What worked yesterday may not work today. The world has changed, but I remained the same." And isn't that exactly what happens in our lives too? Many of us rely on old habits, old methods, or old tricks to solve new problems. We say, "This always worked for me before, so it will work again." But the truth is, times change, people change, and challenges change. If we don't learn, if we don't grow, we get left behind. Think about it. Technology changes every day. The way people work, study, or even communicate is different now. Success belongs to those who adapt, not to those who hold on to the past. The cap seller lost his caps that day not because of the monkeys, but because he failed to learn something new. This story is not just about monkeys and caps. It is about life. It teaches us one powerful lesson. Old tricks don't always work. What saved you once may not save you again. You must keep updating your knowledge, refreshing your skills, and opening your mind to new ideas. If you're a student, don't rely only on old study methods. Try new techniques. If you're working, don't stick only to what you learned years ago. Upgrade your skills. If you're facing problems in relationships, don't keep using the same old responses. Find better ways to understand and connect. Remember, in life, the challenges ahead will always be smarter than the challenges behind you. So you too must be smarter than your past self. The cap seller's story reminds us all, never stop learning, never stop growing. Because the only way to win in this ever-changing world is not by depending on old tricks, but by building new ones. So ask yourself today, are you ready to grow smarter than the monkeys of your L?